Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and today, honestly, I feel like the luckiest man in the world. As many of you know, I start my videos with, "Hi, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida." Well, if you've been watching the news lately, then you know that the last 72 hours, Naples has been anything but beautiful and sunny. About a week ago, we got word that a monster storm, Hurricane Irma, was going to hit Florida. And frankly, Naples is on the west coast of Florida, and it's pretty well guarded against a hurricane. That is, in the sense that if a storm hits the east coast, and generally these things move from the east to the west, if it hit the east coast, then it would be over land before it hit Naples. And if it went south of Florida, it would hit Cuba, and Cuba's pretty mountainous, and the mountains of Cuba actually shred hurricanes pretty well. So in order for a storm to hit Naples directly, the storm would have to thread the needle between Cuba and Florida, and then would have to turn directly north to hit us with any real punch. And with most of the models having the hurricane tracking eastward, like on the east coast of Florida, many of us on the west coast didn't take the storm all that seriously. But as the days crept closer, it was pretty clear that Irma was continuing to track a bit more westerly and was likely going to go through the middle of the state of Florida and thread that needle between Florida and Cuba. Uh-oh, time for us to press the panic button. So, like everyone else, I ran to Costco, Home Depot, and Lowe's, and naturally, they were all out of plywood. But they all had water, and I bought whatever materials I could, and literally created a patchwork to create my own personal, hurricane shutters out of 2x4s and whatever materials I could find, or whatever materials my neighbors had left over. I covered almost every part of my house, or every window of my house, but I didn't have enough to cover my front door or my rear doors. But oh well, what are you gonna do? So Saturday rolls around and it's go time. We have to leave to my sister-in-law's house, which was built to withstand a much stronger storm than our house was. And then the waiting began. Frankly, you can only play so many games of Monopoly, or play that thing so many times, even the iPad version, which is great, but man, you can only play it so many times. As the days drew on, we kept hoping the storm would go west, and instead, the storm kept moving to the east, and it then made a beeline, eye wall and all, directly for Naples, Florida. We literally were in the direct path of the storm. Honestly, I was staring into the abyss. My house, which is one of the few wood frame homes in Florida, was in the path of the eye wall. The media was talking up the storm surge of about 15 feet, which would have put my studio about 10 feet underwater. And then we have a small home in Fort Myers, and I think many of you know this now from watching Ken Wheeler, the Angry Photographer's video, that I thought that home was going to be a pile of sticks. Needless to say, I was witnessing everything that I had built up over the last 15 years about to get torn to shreds. Yeah. So anyway, this was the last image that I was able to pull from my cell phone before we lost cell coverage as the storm was about to hit. After that, it was total radio silence. The winds sounded like a freight train outside going past at about 100 miles an hour. In fact, the eye wall hit Naples with sustained winds of 130 miles an hour, and it was like that for 30 minutes. And there was one gust recorded at 142 miles an hour in Naples. Honestly, I was thinking to myself, this is total devastation. My life is going to be in ruins. And then after the eye wall hit, it got eerily calm, because then we were in the eye, and we went outside. It was really weird because we went from freight train being out our window to total calmness, silence, stillness. It was amazing. There was water everywhere. There were trees and branches down everywhere. It looked like devastation. The storm continued to track eastward and stayed inland, which surprisingly turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because the entire time I was hoping the storm would track more westerly, but what I didn't realize at the time is that that would have been the worst thing that could have possibly happened, because it would have given us a massive storm surge here in Naples. And for those of you that don't know, because frankly I was one of them, I didn't know what storm surge was, but storm surge is when the top side of a hurricane, which blows westerly, in the case for us, that means it forces all that water out to sea. But then when the eye wall passes and the south side of the storm, or the bottom side of the storm hits, all that water that's built up in the ocean, in our case the Gulf of Mexico, comes rushing back into land, aided and abetted by a hurricane-force winds. The forecasters had consistently been calling for 10 to 15 feet of storm surge after the storm. Well, because the storm went east, the surge, fortunately for us, never materialized. And thank God for that, because it just ended up being like the best thing that ever happened to us. Anyway, after that, after a while, the storm passed, and we got in my car, and we went outside to survey the damage. There were trees down everywhere, and the going to my home was nearly impossible. But we did finally get to my neighborhood, but unfortunately there was a massive downed tree blocking our path. And we thought about walking, but there were down power lines pretty much everywhere, and there was water everywhere, so we thought we didn't want to get electrocuted, so we opted to return to my sister-in-law's and wait until the next morning. As you can imagine, the suspense was killing us. You know, what was our house going to look like? Do we even have a house? Well, the next morning we got there, and I want to show you or share with you the drive into our neighborhood. So take a look at this.
You got it?
Someone's living room here that you guys are looking at right now. There's a TV.
Probably reverse.
I want to send this to the news.
It just hurts to see this. This is a little anecdotal, but as a kid, I
can hold
every year. So driving around.
This is our neighborhood.
To see the island.
Oh, look at that. Look on the left.
Look at this.
So positive. They talked
That's
about
a tree
how
house.
storm surge was a really big concern here.
How
Didn't come
did all of our houses survive this? Including the ones that didn't put any windows up.
Hey, Bradley.
Bernie, what do you call it up?
No, that's Charlie. Hey, Charlie.
bringing some people to the hospital, and I'm gonna introduce you to them in the
What do you say?
Our house is okay.
with you then.
Oh, it's just the Humphreys in
That's
front
good
of
to know.
us. Hurry up and get behind them. There's another car
I see
coming.
him.
How come no one put wood up in their windows? They're 100% fine. Oh, look at that. There's another tree. Back there.
Look at that.
Why does the most beautiful trees in this whole neighborhood have to fall down?
Because they're huge and they got caught up in the wind. But the houses that like didn't have any protection at all have all their windows intact, which is amazing. Look at
You know,
this.
it could have been fine. Look at that.
Charlie's entire thing is blocked. I think the entire neighborhood's over there right now. So now there's that. Jake is over there. Miss Romano's over there. Nathan's over there.
There's still a boil water notice here. There's no sewage.
We gotta start cleaning up.
So it's a dangerous place to be. It's not
I wonder
somewhere
what our
you
place
want
looks
everyone
like.
to
No, we have to help cleaning up. We have to help clean up.
Everyone to know if you're in a shelter,
I'm gonna help
if you're in a hotel, if you're
This is possibly the worst thing I've ever seen.
the police department.
Our house is standing, guys.
And the trees in front are still there.
Make sure your property's safe. They're working for you.
Oh my God!
Anyone to be concerned. I know
Look at
it's a stressful
this.
time, and I know everyone wants
Holy
to
crap, look at the tree in front of Nick's house.
not letting anyone on the island.
And Annette's big, beautiful tree. The whole lawn came up. Jeez.
This is just amazing to look at. But right now, yes, as I
This
mentioned,
Sinette's tree is the thing that.
Alright,
Let me
well.
clear that. No, Dad. Let me
Glass
clear
isn't broken. I can't believe it.
that. Dad, stop the car.
Miraculously, our home only suffered minimal damage. Again, because the storm went eastward, the storm surge was minimalized, meaning that my studio didn't get flooded. That small home that I have up near Ken Wheeler's place in Fort Myers was also well west of the storm. And not only did it survive the storm, the damn thing had power too. It never lost power, which is amazing. So, needless to say, there was a lot of cleanup for us to do, but we were extraordinarily grateful at how things ultimately turned out. So, I'm doing this video tonight on Tuesday night, the 12th of September, just 48 hours after landfall, the landfall of the eye wall here in Naples, and my power is already back on. I'm in a positive state of shock. I'm amazed, and I'm grateful. Lastly, I just want to let everyone know how touched I am by the sheer number of people who sent positive comments and emails to me before, during, and after the storm. I was getting emails and texts from people all over the world concerned about my safety and the safety of my family. When I set out on this YouTube adventure 4 years ago, I never knew how much the community would have meant to me in a time of crisis. But I'm so appreciative of all those who sent me a private messages and took the time to go to my website and fill out the web form just to wish me and my family well. I just can't begin to express how much that means to me. Now, lastly, my studio is still powerless, but I'm hopeful that it'll be up and running shortly, and I'll be up and running with new content on my YouTube channel soon. So thank you all so much for reaching out and supporting me in this unbelievably trying time. But in the end, given how everything turned out, I could quite possibly be the luckiest man in the world. I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, based here in still beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. We survived Armageddon, and we are Southwest Florida strong. Until the next time, happy shooting.